Well, last week we endured one of the silliest outrage cycles in recent memory when the media and the internet mob came together to scream at South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem for killing a dog 20 years ago. Now, as we discussed, the anger was absurdly overblown and incredibly stupid, but Noem was even stupider for bringing the dog-killing story up in the first place. And she included the anecdote in her forthcoming book titled No Going Back, scheduled to be released, I believe, tomorrow. The book is obviously meant to increase her national political profile and boost her unofficial campaign for vice president. Instead, as any story about killing a dog is destined to do in our culture, it torpedoed her vice presidential aspirations and her political career along with it. This book was supposed to be her ticket to the White House, but now she'll have to settle for being a part-time Fox News contributor, which, is where her career would have ultimately ended up even if she became vice president. So you might say this just gets her to the ultimate destination much more efficiently and quickly. But in any event, it turns out that the story of her poor deceased dog is not the only strange detail that she, or more precisely her ghostwriter, included in the book. And on Sunday, she appeared on Face the Nation to talk about the book, and the conversation went from weird to weirder very quickly. Watch.
So you write about lessons learned in leadership, and you bring up some specific incidents I want to ask you about. You talk about meeting some world leaders, and one specific one, quote, "I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all." Did you meet Kim Jong-un?
Well, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong-un. That's what you're saying.
I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that. This anecdote shouldn't have been in the book, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that was adjusted. So the book is not released until Tuesday, and so we're doing all that we can.
So she says that she's not going to talk about any specific meeting with world leaders, except that in her book, the one that she's there to promote, she does talk about a specific meeting, one with Kim Jong-un. The problem is that any vaguely aware person will know that the communist dictator of North Korea probably isn't holding any meetings with the governor of South Dakota, because why? And Noem is asked whether that meeting actually happened, and all she will say is that it was brought to her attention, and so it will be changed in the book. Well, what was brought to her attention? Did somebody bring to her attention the fact that she never actually met the leader of North Korea? Or did someone bring to her attention the fact that this claim was made in her book? And if the former, then how could she have not known that she didn't actually meet the leader of North Korea? And if the latter, how could she have not known that this claim was made in her book? And obviously, the book was ghostwritten, no great scandal there, but did she really not even read her own book? Well, we know she read it because she's the narrator on the audiobook. So we're left with two possibilities. Either she knowingly lied about meeting Kim Jong-un and just assumed that nobody would call her on it, or she thought she met him only to find out later that she didn't. Well, how could that mistake be made? The interviewer probes that question to find out how could you mix this up, but really doesn't get anywhere on that. It all adds up to, as we can see, the most awkward, cringiest kickoff to a book tour that we've probably ever witnessed. And it's not over. This exchange about North Korea and the question of whether Noem has ever actually met Kim Jong-un or been to North Korea, or whether she knows where North Korea is or what it is, continues, all while Noem refuses to admit that any mistake was made, even though she says that the thing she won't admit is a mistake is being changed nonetheless before it's released. Watch.
And I'm taking responsibility for the change that we've made.
And for the mistake in the book.
And I've told you that, and I'm, no, it's not. What I've said is that I have
You're not taking responsibility for the mistakes in the book.
I've decided this, and I'm saying that this book is very, very good, and I've met with many world leaders, and that there are world leaders that I've met with that are in this book. There are many that I've met with that are not in this book. Okay. And this is an anecdote that I asked to have removed because I think it's appropriate at this point in time. But I'm not going to talk to you about those personal meetings that I've had with world leaders.
Okay.
I'm just not going to have that conversation because I think it's important.
What? Wait, what? I'm not going to have that conversation because I think it's important? So then wouldn't you want to have the conversation if it's important? And again, if you don't want to talk about personal meetings, why is it in your book? She actually said the book is very... So, Governor, did you lie about what's in the book? Well, the book is very, very good. It's a very, very good book. First of all, the book is very, very good. So translation, I didn't write my book or read it until I did the audiobook, but I was tuning myself out for most of that. And if I did notice any problems, I figured it was too late to bring it up. And I just hoped that nobody else would notice, which is a safe bet because, as everybody knows, Republican politicians, especially ones that are associated with or hope to be associated with Donald Trump, rarely encounter any scrutiny at all. So, of course, why couldn't you get away with just flagrantly making up events in your book? This brought us finally to the infamous story of poor Cricket. And here's how that exchange went. Watch.
I want to ask you again about the book. I know you know this question is coming because there's been such an enormous backlash about your revelation that you shot and killed a wire hair pointer named Cricket, who was 14 months old. You say in the book she came from another family that struggled with her aggression. You'd been training her to hunt. She got too excited, ruined the hunt, and then attacked and killed some chickens. I wonder if you have regrets about sharing this story.
You know, Margaret, this book is filled with vulnerable, painful moments in my life, filled with times where I've made very difficult decisions. The reason that the story is in the book because people need to understand who I am and some of those difficult decisions. This was a dangerous animal that was killing livestock and attacking people. And I had little children at the time. Our operation had many kids running around and people in interaction with the public. And I made a difficult choice. I think you're a mother too, and you have little kiddos. Would you make a choice between your children or a dangerous animal? And I think I would ask everybody in the country to put themselves in that situation because that's what I faced. And I talk about it because what I'm tired of in this country is politicians who pretend to be something that they're not, that they aren't willing to have the hard conversations and look at the past and the tough decisions that they've made. What I talk about in the book extensively when people are able to get it on Tuesday is to see the whole story and the truth, not the spin that the media has put on this story. The media has put some or removed most of the facts, and what the reason this is in there is because I want people to know that I don't ask anybody else to take on my responsibilities.
I don't ask anybody else to take on my responsibilities. When there's a dog to kill, I do it myself. And I like it. Damn it, I like it. I actually would have respected her more if she had just said that. Like if she had just said, look, I wanted to kill a dog, so I killed it. I kill animals all the time. What are you going to do about it? Like now I'll be alone in this, but I personally would have respected that a little bit more. It'd still be pretty weird. But although now, given the made-up Kim Jong-un story, I'm seriously starting to wonder whether Cricket even existed. It's possible that she never killed any dog, and her ghostwriter made that up too. And maybe Noem didn't want to admit that it was made up, so she just went with it. That's at least a possibility we have to consider at this point. And that's not the only animal execution recounted in her memoir. Soon the conversation turned to the goat that also crossed Kristi Noem and didn't live to tell about it. Listen to the details on this one.
In a part of a chapter called Bad Day to Be a Goat. And then after you shot the dog, you, quote, realized another unpleasant job needed to be done. Walking back up to the yard, I spotted our billy goat. You said he smelled and would chase kids, so you took him to the gravel pit and shot him twice. How do you justify that? How was the goat a threat? And I'm asking you this because it seems like you're celebrating the killing of the animals.
Not at all. This has been a story that my political opponents have tried to use against me for years. It's well known in South Dakota, and it has been to other people. And I want the truth to be out there and to understand that these animals were attacking my children, that we live on a farm and a ranch, and that tough decisions are made many times. And it is to protect people. And I'll tell you, the extremism of other people and how they have attacked me politically, I understand it. They're doing the same thing to me that they do to Donald Trump every day.
First of all, don't bring Donald Trump into this. He's got enough issues. You don't need to rope him in. But I'm sorry. Let's just back up for a moment. So she killed the goat on the same day that she killed the dog. I don't think we knew that, or at least I didn't. She was hyped up on adrenaline, filled with bloodlust, looking for something else to kill, and she happened to see that punk-ass goat hanging out by the barn and just decided then to take him to the same gravel pit that, at this point, I guess was covered in blood and just busted 2 caps in his ass. And this is a story that a politician has decided to tell in her memoir, and she recounts it in a chapter titled Bad Day to Be a Goat. Now, and also, by the way, the fact that this, according to her, this has been this is like a well-known political controversy in South Dakota going back years. Like they've been debating the smelly goat that Kristi Noem killed for years now. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if people in South Dakota, when they heard this story, like, oh yeah, so there's the story about the goat again. I'm not sure if it's that well known, but that's pretty great if it is. I'm starting to get the impression that this whole book is just her bragging about killing various animals, interspersed with imaginary, fictionalized retellings of meetings with world leaders that never actually happened. So the whole book is like a murderous, blood-soaked fever dream. I'm intrigued. I want to buy a copy of the book now. Honest to God, it sounds entertaining at the very least. And we haven't even made it to the best part yet. Listen to this.
But on this point, though, because you have been rumored to be a potential vice presidential candidate, as you know, and former House Speaker Newt Gingrich said killing the dog and then writing about it ended any possibility of her being picked as VP. You talk multiple times about it. In fact, at the end of the book, you say the very first thing you would do if you got to the White House that was different from Joe Biden is you'd make sure Joe Biden's dog was nowhere on the grounds. Commander, say hello to Cricket. Are you doing this to try to look tough? Do you still think that you have a shot at being a VP?
Well, number one, Joe Biden's dog has attacked 24 Secret Service people. So how many people is enough people to be attacked and dangerously hurt before you make a decision on a dog and what to do with it?
Well, he's not living at the White House
That's
anymore.
a question that the president should be held accountable to.
Commander, say hello to Cricket. This is apparently not a joke. She really ends the book by threatening to kill Joe Biden's dog. I'm officially sold. I'll be pre-ordering my copy as soon as this show is over. And also, I like, by the way, this interview was just nothing but the interviewer bringing up one animal after another and asking for her to justify why she killed it, bringing up one animal after another to justify why she killed it or will kill it in the future. And she engages each time. You know, she's like, well, that goat smelled like garbage and it was annoying my kids. What do you want me to do? Now, granted, when I say that I want to read this book, it's because the book, it would seem, is a completely insane train wreck. And that might help her sell copies, but it represents an act of political suicide. I mean, this is something so close to actual self-immolation that watching that interview, I almost expected her to shout, "Free Palestine." She has destroyed herself completely in the most unnecessary, egregious, and hilarious way that we've ever seen. And she's done all that in an effort to promote herself. Many such cases, especially in politics. But that is why Kristi Noem is, not by me, but by her own choosing, today canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.